Welcome, dear viewers, to Poetry Blows Your Blues Away. In the last video, I read out Robert Browning's dramatic monologue, My Last Duchess. Today, we are going to discuss the same poem, My Last Duchess, Robert Browning's dramatic monologue, in a detailed fashion. It is said that Robert Browning's My Last Duchess is one of the finest dramatic monologues in the whole range of English literature. The speaker is the Duke of Ferrara. Ferrara is an Italian city, an important Italian city, a cultural center during the Renaissance. In this poem, Browning captures the very spirit of the Renaissance, Italy. A dramatic monologue is a long poetic speech made by a single speaker. It's a monologue, that's why it's called a monologue. It's a long poetic speech made by a single speaker addressing a particular audience. The dramatic monologue lays bare the character of the speaker. In this particular dramatic monologue, we come to know about the Duke as well as the Duchess. It indulges in introspection. It is an interesting character study. The Duke of Ferrara is a recently widowed person. He intends to marry again. A powerful count has sent his messenger to the Duke's palace to negotiate his daughter's marriage with the Duke. The Duke takes him round his picture gallery and shows him the portrait of his last Duchess. And there begins the dramatic monologue. That's my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder. The Duke is a great lover of fine arts. He is proud of his Duchess's portrait, that painting on the wall, fresco painting. The Duke got the portrait done by a monk artist, Fra Pandolf. Fra means brother. The artist was given only one single day to do it. Fra Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. The Duke rarely allows anybody to look at the painting. He says, "Since none puts by the curtain, I have drawn for you but I." This shows the Duke's possessive nature and dictatorial attitude. The Duke notices an inquiring look in the eyes of the messenger and satisfies his curiosity. What was his inquiry? What is the cause of the earnest glance and spot of joy in her face? There is a spot of joy in the face of the painting, in the face of the Duchess in the painting. The Duke answers his inquiring look. The blush of joy, the glow in the cheek, in her cheek, the blush of joy, came there not because of her husband's presence only. She would blush even at a casual remark made by Fra Pandolf. For example, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Or at a compliment paid by Fra Pandolf. Paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. The Duke says, "She had a heart, how shall I say? Too soon made glad, too easily impressed. The costly piece of jewelry, the beautiful sunset, the gift of a bough of cherries somebody brought her from the orchard, the white mule she rode with. All these pleased her the same way." He says, "Sir, it was all one. My favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with around the terrace. She thanked everybody as if she ranked his 900 years old name with anybody else's. The Duke chose not to stoop. Correcting her, giving her lessons in manners would be stooping in his view. Who would stoop to blame this sort of trifling? He admits he does not have the skill in speech to correct her. He says, just this in that, he doesn't want to tell her, just this or that in you disgusts me. Here you miss, there you exceed the mark. I choose never to stoop. Even that would be stooping. I choose never to stoop, says the Duke. She smiled whenever he passed her by. She smiled the same way whoever passed her by. Oh, sir, she smiled no doubt whenever I passed her, but who passed without much the same smile? This grew, I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. Then all smiles stopped together. 5 words. This is called a tragedy in 5 words by a critic called Robinson, because the whole life, the tragedy of a whole life is concentrated into this small space, into this just one sentence. I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. What does it mean? The Duke gave commands because he was hurt, his pride was hurt, because the Duchess had no discrimination or decorum or dignity in his view, according to him. So he gave commands and the Duchess was murdered. It is not said in the poem. The Duke doesn't say this, but it is implied. He simply implies. He suggests. That's why Robinson calls this line, then all smiles stopped together, a tragedy in 5 words. Now, there she stands. Immediately, this is followed by this sentence, there she stands as if alive. Then the Duke asks the messenger to come down along with him, where the other guests are waiting. Will it please you rise? We will meet the company below. In passing, he tells the messenger that he would expect a rich dowry from the Count. He says, I repeat, the Count, your master's known munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at the starting, is my object. He is all courtesy when he says, Nay, we will go together down, sir. As they go downstairs, he draws the messenger's attention to the bronze sculpture of Neptune, the sea god taming a seahorse. Notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse, thought a rarity, which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. It was specially done for him by Claus of Innsbruck. This is the last line, which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. The Duke is hard-hearted, proud, tyrannical, greedy, and cunning. The only redeeming feature in him is his love of art. The poem starts with an appreciation of a piece of art, the Duchess's painting. It ends with an admiration of a piece of art, the sculpture of sea god Neptune taming a seahorse. This may suggest that the Duke wishes to tame his wife. The Duke suggests to the messenger what qualities he expects in his future wife: decorum, dignity, discrimination, and good sense. The poem is written in heroic couplets, but as the sense runs on from one line to another, the readers are hardly aware of the rhyme. It reads almost like blank verse. For example, that's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call we don't pause at call. On the wall and I call, these wall and call are rhymes. I call that piece a wonder. Now, that means it overflows into the next line. So it almost reads like blank verse. It's a metrical feat achieved by Robert Browning. Now, finally, a word about Browning's characterization. A critic called Ryland says, "No great English poet since Shakespeare has shown such a varied and subtle insight into human character." So, such is his psychological character studies. So, each poem, each dramatic monologue is a masterpiece, and I advise you, viewers, to read other dramatic monologues too, written by Robert Browning. That's all for now. See you soon with yet another amazing poem in my next video. Till then, happy poetry reading.